Lieutenant Daniel Cooper wiped the sweat from his forehead as he guided his small shuttle through the debris field surrounding the abandoned mining colony. The distress signal had been weak, almost undetectable, but his sensors had picked up life signs. Someone was out here, and they were in trouble. The colony on Kesher 7 had been empty for 3 years, ever since the mining operations shut down. Now its broken towers and shattered domes stood like monuments to a forgotten dream. Daniel brought his shuttle down in what used to be the main landing bay. The whole place felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. He grabbed his medical kit and stepped out into the dusty air. His suit's sensors immediately started flashing warnings. Toxic atmosphere, radiation levels elevated, and somewhere in this mess, someone was dying. Daniel followed his scanner deeper into the colony, through corridors filled with fallen debris and broken equipment. The life sign was getting stronger, but also weaker at the same time. Whoever was here did not have much time left. He found her in what looked like an old medical facility. The room was dark, except for the emergency lights that still somehow worked after all these years. And there, collapsed against the far wall, was the most magnificent and terrible sight Daniel had ever seen. She was huge, at least 8 feet tall even while slumped against the wall. Her scales shimmered like crushed diamonds, shifting colors from deep blue to purple in the dim light. 4 arms hung limply at her sides, and a crown of crystalline horns rose from her head. Blood, dark purple and thick, pooled beneath her. So much blood. Daniel knew immediately what she was. An Ashkari. But not just any Ashkari. The crown, the ceremonial armor, the royal markings on her scales. This was Queen Valeth herself, the ruler of the entire Ashkari Empire. He rushed forward, his medical training kicking in before his mind could fully process what he was seeing. She had 3 deep wounds across her torso, the kind made by Ashkari ceremonial blades. This was not an accident. Someone had tried to kill her. Her eyes opened as he approached. They were like molten gold, ancient and sad. She looked at him with such weariness that it made his heart ache. "Human," she whispered, her voice like distant thunder. "You should not be here." "I got your distress signal," Daniel said, already pulling out his medical scanner. The readings made his blood run cold. She was dying, fast. "I sent no signal," Valeth said softly. "My people made sure of that." Daniel paused. "Your people did this to you?" A bitter sound escaped her throat, something like a laugh but filled with pain. "My High Council. They wanted war with your kind. I refused, so they made sure I could not refuse anymore." Daniel felt anger flash through him, but he pushed it aside. Anger would not help her now. He started pulling out medical supplies, his hands moving quickly and surely. "I need to stop this bleeding." One of her massive hands moved weakly, pushing his supplies away. "No, human, let me die. It is done. A betrayed queen has no throne to return to. No honor left to claim. In my culture, this is the end." "Well, I am not from your culture," Daniel said firmly, gently moving her hand aside. "And in my culture, we do not let people die when we can save them." Violet watched him with those golden eyes as he worked. His medical foam was designed for human wounds, but he modified the applicator, praying it would work on Ashkari biology. He had studied alien physiology, but he had never treated an Ashkari before. No human had. "Why?" she asked as he pressed the foam into her wounds. She flinched, but did not pull away. "Why save an alien queen? Your people and mine are not allies. We have barely spoken to each other in 50 years. Daniel met her gaze as he worked. "Because you are hurt, and I am a medic. That is reason enough." She was quiet for a moment, watching him spray sealant over her wounds. His hands were steady, gentle despite the urgency. "My council left me here to die. They will tell my people that humans killed me. They will use my death to start a war. Your compassion will cost your people dearly." "Then we better make sure you live," Daniel said. He pulled out an IV line, trying to figure out where her veins would be. Her anatomy was different from humans, but not impossibly so. "Because I am guessing a living queen can stop a war better than a dead one." Valeth made that sound again, that bitter, almost laugh. You do not understand. I have been betrayed by my own council. In Ashkari culture, that means I am weak, unworthy. Even if I survive, I have no power left. No queen has ever returned from such dishonor. Daniel finally found a vein in her upper right arm and carefully inserted the IV. He attached a bag of synthetic plasma, hoping her body would accept it. Maybe it is time for a first time then. She looked at him like he was insane. Perhaps he was. Here he was, alone on an abandoned colony, trying to save the life of an alien queen with medical supplies meant for humans. The logical part of his brain was screaming that this was impossible. But Daniel had never been good at accepting impossible. Rest, he told her, checking her vital signs on his scanner. They were still dangerously weak, but they were stabilizing. Just a little. Just enough. I am going to keep you alive, Your Majesty, whether you want me to or not. Valeth's eyes started to close. She was so tired, so broken. Foolish human, she whispered. You save someone who has nothing left to rule, nothing left to give. Why waste your medicine on the already dead? Daniel adjusted the plasma flow and pulled out a thermal blanket, draping it carefully over her massive form. Because every life has value, even a betrayed queen's life, maybe especially a betrayed queen's life. As her eyes finally closed and her breathing steadied into something like sleep, Daniel sat back against the wall beside her. His hands were shaking now that the immediate crisis had passed. He looked at this magnificent creature, brought so low by those she trusted most. He activated his communicator. Cooper to Horizon Dawn. I need a medical supply drop at my coordinates. Priority urgent. And Captain Hayes, you are not going to believe what I... The night cycle on Kesher 7 brought bitter cold that seeped through the broken walls of the medical facility. Daniel had managed to get the old heating system partially working, but it was a losing battle against the frozen darkness outside. He sat beside Queen Valeth, monitoring her vital signs every few minutes. She had been unconscious for 3 hours now. The plasma drip was almost empty, and Daniel was preparing a second bag when her eyes suddenly opened. Those golden eyes fixed on him with sharp awareness. You are still here, she said, her voice stronger than before but still weak. Where else would I be? Daniel checked her wounds. The medical foam had held, and the bleeding had stopped. It was a small miracle, but he would take it. Most beings would have left by now, Valeth said. You have done your duty, stabilized me. You could return to your ship and report that you found me. Let others decide my fate. Daniel shook his head as he attached the fresh plasma bag. That is not how I work. I stay with my patients until they are out of danger. You are definitely still in danger. Valeth was quiet for a long moment, studying him. What is your name, human medic? Daniel Cooper, Lieutenant. But just Daniel is fine. Daniel, she repeated, testing the name. I am Valeth. But I suppose you already knew that. Hard to miss the crown, Daniel said with a small smile. Though I have to admit, I never expected to meet you like this. Another one of those bitter sounds escaped her. No one expects to meet their queen bleeding out in an abandoned colony, least of all the queen herself. Daniel pulled up a broken chair and sat down properly. His supply drop would not arrive for another 4 hours. Until then, it was just the two of them in this cold, dark room. Do you want to tell me what happened? Sometimes talking helps. Valeth's eyes drifted to the ceiling. My High Council has wanted war with humanity for years. Your species found rich mining worlds and systems we claimed first. They see you as thieves, invaders. I told them we should negotiate, share resources, find peaceful solutions. She paused, pain crossing her features. They called me weak, said I had lost the warrior spirit of our ancestors. So they decided to remove you, Daniel said quietly. Yes, 3 of my most trusted advisors. They came to me with a proposal for a secret meeting, said they wanted to discuss peace terms privately. I believed them. Her 4 hands clenched into fists. They brought me here, told me this would be where humanity's treachery was revealed. Then they drew their ceremonial blades. Daniel felt anger rising in his chest again. They stabbed you and left you to die. They told me my death would look like a human assassination, that my people would rally for war, that my weakness would finally serve a purpose. Valith's voice cracked slightly. In Ashkari culture, if your own council betrays you, it means you were unworthy to lead. Even if I return, even if I tell the truth, many will say I deserved this, that I failed as a queen. That is terrible, Daniel said. Your culture sounds pretty harsh. We value strength above all else, Valith explained. A leader must be strong, unbending, fearless. Compassion is seen as weakness. Mercy is failure. She looked at him directly. Yet here you are, showing me both, and somehow I am still alive. It confuses me. Daniel adjusted her thermal blanket. In human culture, we believe compassion is strength. It takes courage to care about others. It takes real power to choose kindness over cruelty. Valith considered this. Your people must seem very strange to the rest of the galaxy. We get that a lot, Daniel admitted with a slight grin. But I would rather be strange and kind than normal and cruel. Tell me about your world, Valith said suddenly. I have read reports about humanity, but reports do not tell the truth of a people. You are here, alone, risking yourself for someone you do not know, for someone whose people might go to war with yours. Why? Daniel thought about it while he checked her temperature. Still too low, but rising. I became a medic because I believe every life matters. Every person has value, regardless of where they come from or what they look like. My grandmother used to say that we are all just trying to survive in this big universe. Even the least we can do is help each other along the way. Your grandmother sounds wise. She was, Daniel said softly. She worked in a hospital during the colony wars. Treated soldiers from both sides. Some people called her a traitor for helping the enemy. She told them that injured people are not enemies, they are patients. Nothing else matters when someone is bleeding in front of you. Valith was silent for a moment. I wish my people understood this. Maybe they will, Daniel said. You said your council plans to use your death to start a war. But you are not dead. You can stop this. How? Valith's voice was heavy with doubt. I am a betrayed queen, dishonored. Even if I speak, who will listen? I will listen, Daniel said firmly. And I bet there are others in your empire who will too. You said 3 council members did this. And what about the others? What about your people who do not want war? Valith's eyes widened slightly. You think I should fight back? I think you should live, Daniel corrected. And if living means fighting back, then yes. You did not survive betrayal just to give up now. In my culture, a wounded leader should accept death with honor. Good thing I am human then, Daniel said. Because I am not going to let you die. Not when you are the only thing standing between our peoples and a war neither of us wants. Valith looked at him for a long time. Something shifted in her golden eyes. Not hope exactly, but something close to it. You are either very brave or very foolish, Daniel Cooper. Probably both, he admitted. For the first time, Valith made a sound that might have been a real laugh, small and weak, but genuine. Perhaps your grandmother was right. Perhaps we are all just trying to survive. And we survive better together, Daniel added. Valith closed her eyes again, but this time it was not from pain or despair. It was rest. Real rest. Stay close, human medic. I think I am beginning to understand why your people frighten my council so much. Your weakness might be the strongest thing I have ever encountered. Daniel smiled and settled back in his chair, keeping watch through the long, cold night. Outside, stars wheeled overhead, uncaring of the small drama unfolding in an abandoned colony. But inside that broken medical facility, something important was happening. A queen was choosing life over death. And that choice would change everything. By the time the sun rose over Kishar 7, Valith was strong enough to sit up on her own. Daniel had received his medical supplies from the Horizon Dawn and had spent the early morning hours treating her wounds properly. The synthetic tissue patches were working better than he had hoped, bonding with her Ashkari biology in ways that surprised him. Your medicine is remarkable, Valith said as Daniel removed the old bandages. The wounds were closing cleanly, though she would carry the scars forever. Your body is doing most of the work, Daniel replied. Ashkari healing factors are incredible. I just gave you a little help. Valith flexed her forearms carefully, testing her strength. I can move without pain now. You have given me back my body, Daniel Cooper. Now I must decide what to do with it. Daniel had been thinking about this all night. We need to contact your people and tell them the truth before your council can spread their lies. The communications equipment here is old, Valith said, but it might still work. The question is whether anyone will believe me. They will believe you when they see you alive, Daniel said, and when you show them proof. They spent the next 2 hours working together to restore power to the colony's transmission array. Valith knew Ashkari technology well, and Daniel was good with human systems. Between them, they managed to get the old equipment functioning. I will record a message to my people, Valith decided. I will tell them everything. About the betrayal. About the planned war. About you. About me? Daniel looked surprised. Yes. They need to know that a human saved their queen's life when her own council tried to end it. Or they need to understand what that means. Valith positioned herself in front of the communication terminal. This will either save both our peoples or doom me completely. There is no middle ground. Daniel started the recording. Valith spoke in her own language, her voice strong and clear. Even though Daniel could not understand the words, he could hear the power in them. This was a queen speaking, not a victim. When she finished, she switched to English and recorded a second message for the human government. Now we send it, she said, and we wait. But they did not have to wait long. Daniel's scanner suddenly screamed a warning. We have incoming ships, 3 of them. Ashkari design. Valith's expression darkened. The council must have been monitoring this sector. They know I survived. Are they coming to finish what they started? Daniel asked, his hand moving to the small sidearm at his belt. Most likely, Valith said calmly. She stood, testing her balance. You should leave, Daniel. Take your shuttle and go. This is not your fight. Not a chance, Daniel said firmly. We are in this together now. You would fight for me? Risk your life for an alien queen? I did not spend all night keeping you alive just to let assassins kill you now, Daniel replied. He was already scanning the facility layout on his datapad. This place has security systems, old ones, but they might still work. Valith moved beside him, looking at the schematic. The mining facility had automated defenses against raiders and thieves. If we can activate them, we might have a chance. They worked quickly. Yet Daniel ran through the corridors, restoring power to security nodes, while Valith accessed the central computer. Her knowledge of the facility's systems was impressive, and Daniel realized she must have studied human colony designs extensively. The first ship is landing, Valith called out. We have maybe 5 minutes. Daniel sprinted back to the control room. On the monitors, they could see 3 Ashkari warriors emerging from their vessel. They were heavily armed and moved with deadly purpose. I recognize them, Valith said quietly. Elite guards. The council sent their best. Can we talk to them? Convince them? Valith shook her head. They follow orders without question. That is what makes them elite. They will not stop until I am dead or they are. Daniel felt his heart racing, but kept his hands steady as he activated the security grid. Then we make sure it is not you who dies. The first assassin entered the facility and immediately triggered a security beam. Alarms blared and doors began sealing automatically, dividing the complex into sections. It would not stop them, but it would slow them down. They are adapting, Valith observed, overriding the locks. We need a better plan. The medical facility, Daniel said suddenly. It has a separate power core. We can seal ourselves in and call for help. They moved quickly through the corridors. Behind them, Daniel could hear the heavy footsteps of the Ashkari warriors. They were getting closer. Valith stumbled, her injuries still affecting her. Daniel caught her arm and helped her forward. Almost there, just a little further. An energy blast scorched the wall beside them. The assassins had found them. Go, Valith said, pushing Daniel ahead. I will hold them. Not happening, Daniel said. He pulled out his medical scanner and threw it down the corridor behind them. The device shattered and released a cloud of scanning radiation that confused the assassin's sensors for precious seconds. They reached the medical facility and Daniel sealed the door. The locks would not hold long against determined attackers, but it gave them time. "That was clever," Valeth said, breathing heavily. "I improvise well under pressure," Daniel admitted. He was already activating his emergency beacon. "Horizon Dawn, this is Cooper. Need immediate extraction. Under attack by hostile forces. I have a VIP who needs protection." The response came quickly. "Cooper, this is Captain Hayes. We are 10 minutes out. Can you hold?" "We will have to," Daniel replied. An explosion rocked the door. The assassins were using plasma charges. Valeth moved to stand beside Daniel. "If we survive this, I will make sure the galaxy knows what you did here. If we survive this, I am going to write the strangest medical report in human history," Daniel said. Despite everything, Valeth laughed. A real laugh this time, full and genuine. "You are absolutely insane, Daniel Cooper." "You are not the first person to tell me that," he said with a grin. The door exploded inward. The 3 Ashkari warriors entered, weapons raised. Violet stepped forward, her forearms spread wide, placing herself between Daniel and the assassins. I am Queen Valeth," she declared, her voice ringing with authority, "and I order you to stand down." The lead assassin tilted his head. "You are a ghost. The council has declared you dead. We are simply making that truth official." "Then you will have to go through me first," Valeth said. Daniel stood beside her, his small sidearm drawn. It was pathetic compared to their weapons, but he was not backing down. The assassin raised his weapon, and then the roof exploded. The Horizon Dawn's shuttle dropped through the opening, its guns trained on the Ashkari warriors. Behind it, Daniel could see something else. Another ship, much larger. An Ashkari warship. This was about to get much more complicated. The standoff lasted exactly 3 seconds before Captain Gregory Hayes' voice boomed through the shuttle's speakers. "See, everyone lower your weapons, now." The Ashkari assassins hesitated, looking up at the human shuttle hovering above them. Its weapons were locked on target, but they seemed more concerned about the massive Ashkari warship that had just entered orbit. Daniel kept his sidearm steady, though his heart was pounding. Valeth remained standing tall beside him, her golden eyes fixed on the warriors who had come to kill her. "This is Fleet Commander Jaren of the Ashkari Imperial Navy," a deep voice suddenly echoed through the facility's old speaker system. "Human vessel, explain why you are threatening Ashkari citizens," Captain Hayes responded immediately. "This is Captain Gregory Hayes of the exploration vessel Horizon Dawn. We are protecting Lieutenant Daniel Cooper and his patient from unlawful attack." "Patient?" Jaran's voice carried confusion. "What patient?" Valeth stepped forward, moving into the view of both ships' sensors. "Commander Jaran, this is Queen Valeth. I am alive and I have much to tell you." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Jaran spoke again, his voice shaking slightly. "My queen? But the council said you were killed by humans. They showed us evidence. They are preparing the fleet for war." "The council lied," Valeth said clearly. "They tried to murder me themselves. This human medic saved my life." One of the assassins suddenly moved, raising his weapon toward Valeth. Daniel reacted on instinct, firing his sidearm. The shot went wide but caused the warrior to dive for cover. The shuttle immediately fired a warning shot that vaporized a section of floor near the assassins. "Stand down!" Jaran's voice was sharp now. "All Ashkari warriors, lower your weapons immediately. That is a direct order from your fleet commander." The 3 assassins looked at each other, uncertain. They had been following council orders, but a fleet commander outranked the council in military matters. Slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. "Captain Hayes," Valeth called out. "I request permission to board your shuttle. I must speak with Commander Jaran face to face." "Granted, Your Majesty," Hayes replied. "Cooper, get her up here." Daniel helped Valeth climb aboard the shuttle. Her wounds were still healing and the fight had taken its toll. As they lifted away from the facility, Daniel could see the Ashkari warship more clearly. It was enormous, bristling with weapons, and absolutely terrifying. That is the Crimson Talon, Valeth explained quietly. Jiran is old guard, loyal to the throne, not the council. If anyone will believe me, it is him. The shuttle docked with the Horizon Dawn, and Daniel helped Valeth through the corridors. The human crew members they passed stared in shock at the sight of the Ashkari Queen, but they kept their discipline. Captain Hayes met them in the bridge. He was a solid man in his 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. "Your Majesty," he said with a respectful nod. "I never thought I would be saying those words to an Ashkari." "And I never thought I would owe my life to humans," Valeth replied. "Yet here we are. Can you establish a communication link with Commander Jiran?" "Already done," Hayes said. He gestured to the main view screen. The image flickered to life, showing an Ashkari male with dark green scales and weathered features. His eyes widened when he saw Valeth. "My queen, you are truly alive?" "I am, old friend," Valeth said, "thanks to Lieutenant Daniel Cooper." She gestured to Daniel, who stood beside her. "The council told you humans killed me. The truth is that 3 council members tried to assassinate me. They left me to die on Kaysher 7. Daniel found me and saved my life." Jiran's expression hardened. "Which council members?" "High Advisor Kelthax, War Minister Draven, and Security Chief Morath," Valeth said. Each name came out like a blade. "They wanted war with humanity. I refused. So they removed me and planned to use my death as justification for their war." "The fleet is mobilizing as we speak," Jiran said grimly. "Kelthax told us you were murdered during a diplomatic mission. He has evidence, witnesses, recordings." "All fabricated," Valeth said. "I can prove it. The wounds on my body are from Ashkari ceremonial blades, not human weapons. The colony where they left me has security footage. And I have something else." She pulled out a small data crystal from her armor. "Before they attacked me, I activated my personal recorder. I have their confession. Everything they said. Everything they planned." Daniel watched as hope flickered across Zarin's features. "If what you say is true, my queen, this is high treason. The council must face justice." "Not just Ashkari justice," Valeth said firmly. "They plan to destroy innocent humans. To start a war based on lies. I propose something that has never been done before. A joint tribunal. Humans and Ashkari together, judging those who would have killed members of both our species." Hayes stepped forward. "Your Majesty, I need to consult with Earth government before agreeing to something like that. And I must consult with the Ashkari Senate," Zarin added. "But I support this idea. The council has overstepped their authority." "There is one problem," Valeth said quietly. "In Ashkari culture, a betrayed leader is considered weak, unworthy. Even if we prove the council's guilt, many of my people will say I deserved this for being too soft, for refusing war." Daniel spoke up for the first time. "Then maybe it is time to change what strength means." Everyone turned to look at him. He felt his face flush but continued. "With respect, strength is not just about war and fighting. Queen Valeth survived an assassination attempt. She chose to live when it would have been easier to die. She chose to prevent war when starting one would have been simpler. That takes real courage." Valeth looked at him with something like wonder in her golden eyes. Jiran studied Daniel carefully. "You are the medic who saved her?" "Yes, sir," Daniel replied. "Why? Our people are not allies. We have had no contact for decades. Why risk yourself for her?" Daniel met his gaze steadily. "Because she needed help and I could provide it. That is what medics do. We do not ask about politics or treaties. We just save lives." Jiran was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He placed his 4 hands over his chest in what Daniel recognized as an Ashkari gesture of deep respect. "You have honor, human, true honor, not the hollow kind my people have worshipped for too long." "Commander," Valeth said, "can I count on your support?" "You have my fleet, my queen," Jiran said firmly, "and you have my word. We will see justice done." Hayes nodded. "I will contact Earth immediately. This is bigger than both of us now." As the communication ended, Valeth swayed slightly. Daniel immediately moved to support her. "You need rest. Those wounds are not fully healed. I cannot rest yet, she said. Too much is at stake. You cannot save anyone if you collapse, Daniel countered. Let me do my job. Valeth smiled, tired but genuine. Yeah, you humans are very stubborn. We learned from the best, Daniel said with a small grin. Captain Hayes watched them with an expression of amazement. Cooper, do you realize what you have done? You might have just prevented an interstellar war. I just helped someone who needed it, Daniel said simply. The rest kind of happened on its own. But as he helped Valeth to the medical bay, Daniel knew that nothing about this had been simple, and the hardest part was still ahead. 3 months had passed since the standoff above Kshar 7, and Daniel stood in the grand assembly hall watching history unfold before his eyes. The room was massive, designed to hold representatives from a dozen species. Today, it held only 2, but those 2 represented billions of lives. On one side sat the human delegation, led by Ambassador Patricia Liu. On the other sat the Ashkari Senate, with Fleet Commander Zarin at their head. And in the center, in chains that seemed both symbolic and necessary, knelt 3 former council members. Kelthax, Draven, and Morath had been arrested the day after Valeth's broadcast. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The personal recording Valeth had made captured their entire confession. The security footage from the colony showed them leaving her to die. And Daniel's medical records proved her wounds came from Ashkari blades, not human weapons. The trial had lasted 6 weeks. Daniel had testified 3 times, explaining in careful detail how he found Valeth and why he chose to save her. Each time, both human and Ashkari judges listened with intense focus. Now, finally, the verdict was ready. Queen Valeth entered the hall and every being in the room stood. She moved with grace and power, her scales gleaming in the light. The scars from her wounds were visible on her torso, deliberately displayed. She wore them not with shame but with pride. They were proof she had survived. Daniel noticed something else too. She carried herself differently now. There was a softness to her strength that had not been there before. A willingness to show emotion that Ashkari culture had previously forbidden. She took her place at the center podium and looked out at the assembly. 3 months ago, I was betrayed by those I trusted most. They wanted war. They believed compassion was weakness and mercy was failure. They nearly succeeded in destroying both our peoples. Her golden eyes found Daniel in the crowd. He stood with the other human witnesses, wearing his dress uniform. She smiled at him before continuing. But they failed because one human medic showed me what real strength looks like. Daniel Cooper could have left me to die. It would have been safer for him. Easier. No one would have blamed him. Instead, he chose the harder path. He chose to help. Valeth turned to address the Ashkari senators directly. For generations, we have taught our children that emotion is weakness, that kindness is failure, that a true warrior never shows mercy. I believed these things too, until I lay dying and discovered that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose life over death, hope over despair, peace over war. Kelthax suddenly spoke, his voice filled with contempt. You have become weak, Valeth. This human has corrupted you. You shame our entire species with this display. Valeth looked at him with calm certainty. No, Kelthax. You shamed our species when you tried to start a war based on lies, when you valued your own power over the lives of billions. That is true weakness. The head judge, a human named Victor Kane, stood. We have reviewed all evidence and heard all testimony. The tribunal finds the accused guilty of high treason, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit genocide, and crimes against peace. The sentence is life imprisonment, to be served in a joint human Ashkari facility where they can contemplate the cost of their actions. The 3 former council members were led away. Kelthax glared at Valeth with pure hatred, but she met his gaze without flinching. She had won, not through violence or strength of arms, but through truth and perseverance. After the sentencing, there was a reception in an adjoining hall. Daniel found himself surrounded by diplomats and officials who wanted to shake his hand and thank him. It was overwhelming. He kept looking for an escape route. You look uncomfortable, Valeth's voice came from behind him. Daniel turned to see her approaching, her massive form parting the crowd effortlessly. I am not really good at these formal events, he admitted. I prefer the medical bay. As do I, Valeth said. But sometimes duty requires us to endure discomfort. She gestured toward a quieter corner. Walk with me? They moved away from the crowd, finding a balcony that overlooked a garden. The evening air was cool and peaceful. For the first time in months, Daniel felt like he could breathe properly. I owe you my life, Daniel Cooper, Valeth said quietly. But you gave me more than that. You gave me a new way of seeing the world, a new understanding of what strength truly means. You did the hard part, Daniel replied. You chose to live. You chose to fight back. I just gave you the chance. Valeth reached into her armor and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with an inner light, shifting colors like her scales. This is an Ashkari honor crystal. For thousands of years, we have only given these to our greatest warriors, those who won the most battles and killed the most enemies. She held it out to Daniel. I am changing that tradition today. From now on, this honor goes to those who save lives instead of taking them. To healers and peacemakers, to those who choose compassion over cruelty. Daniel took the crystal carefully. It was warm in his hand, pulsing gently. I do not know what to say. Say you will accept it, Valeth said. Say you will help me build something new between our peoples. I am establishing a medical exchange program. Human and Ashkari doctors working together, learning from each other. I want you to lead it. Daniel looked up at her in surprise. Me? But I am just a field medic. You are the medic who changed the fate of 2 civilizations, Valeth corrected gently. You showed us that one act of kindness can ripple outward and transform everything. That is exactly the kind of leadership this program needs. Daniel thought about his grandmother, treating soldiers from both sides of a war. She would have loved this. Okay, he said. I will do it. Valeth made a sound of deep satisfaction. Good. Because I already told Commander Jaren you agreed. He is very excited to work with you. Despite himself, Daniel laughed. You really have learned to be sneaky from humans. I learned many things from one particular human, Valeth said warmly. Sneakiness is just a bonus. They stood together on the balcony, looking out at the garden where human and Ashkari representatives mingled freely for the first time in 50 years. Children from both species played together near a fountain, their laughter rising into the evening air. Do you think it will last? Daniel asked. This peace we have built. I think it will require work, Valeth said honestly. There are still those on both sides who distrust each other, who believe the old ways were better. But we have something now that we did not have before. What is that? Hope, Valeth said simply, and proof that our species can work together, that we are better together than apart. She looked down at him with those golden eyes. You taught me that, Daniel. When you refused to let me die. When you insisted that my life had value even when I believed it did not. Daniel felt emotion tighten his throat. You taught me something too. That courage is not just about facing danger. It is about facing your own culture and saying the old ways need to change. That takes real bravery. Below them, Ambassador Liu was laughing at something Jaren said. Human and Ashkari security forces stood side by side, no longer enemies but partners. And somewhere in the medical wing of the complex, the first group of exchange students were already beginning their training. My grandmother used to say, we are all just trying to survive in this big universe, Daniel said softly. She said the least we can do is help each other along the way. Your grandmother was very wise, Valeth replied. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you, Daniel said with a smile. She always said the best patients were the stubborn ones who refused to give up. Valeth laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Then I would have been her favorite. They stayed on the balcony as the stars came out, 2 beings from different worlds who had found common ground in the most unlikely place. A human medic and an alien queen, bound together by a choice made in a dark, cold room on an abandoned colony. The choice to save a life. The choice to believe in second chances. The choice to hope for something better. And from that one choice, a new future had begun.